All right. Thank you for taking time to learn with us today. This is Rob Barnes with Integrated Insurance Consulting. Today's topic is annuities in action, case studies and stories. I will be talking at a rather brisk pace because we have a lot of material in here. But today takes a real world look at real world situations. Many of them I've been directly involved with, and some of the client situations are current or past scenarios that we've helped design for advisors and their clients. And so before we get to the case studies, I want to share some insight and perspective regarding annuities. An annuity is simply a financial tool. It is true you might outinvest the annuity, but is that the point? An annuity is a protection tool. So fixed deferred annuities protect and grow your principal, and income annuities guarantee lifetime income. And with a name like Integrated Insurance Consulting, it's very clear I'm in the protection side of the business. Investing projects and annuities can guarantee. So a SPIA, or a single premium immediate annuity, you give the company a lump sum and they guarantee income for life. Now, some people are resistant to utilize annuities because they don't want the big bad insurance company to make a windfall profit if they die early. But the reality is, carriers don't make a windfall profit if you die early. The people that die early help us pay the people who live long. That's how mortality credits are applied. And a lifetime income annuity delivers exactly what it guarantees, income for the rest of your life. And today there's contingencies that protect your principal if you die early. So the argument is no longer valid, or there's a slight cost to insure your principal as you like. And I realize that some won't utilize SPIAs because they believe they'll do better in investing the money and create an income stream from investments. And this is where I have to question the perspective. Are we doing risk management or investment analysis when we look at lifetime income for clients? Now, economists' view on decumulation, a quote from George Bernard Shaw, he once quipped that if you laid all the economists end to end, they still wouldn't reach a conclusion except for when it comes to an annuity and retirement. And they mention in here the Wharton School. I'll be sharing a little bit about a study they did a while back that is kind of where my beliefs lie. So, at the heart of insurance is the concept of pooling risk. And what I'd like you to think about throughout the presentation is which one of your clients should consider annuity. Perhaps those with less assets or more conservative investors, or your nervous Nellies. We'll be telling a story about nervous Nellie later. And that's somebody who's going to freak out when the market's down 10 points or so. And annuity is just a tool. Our job is to figure out who should use this tool and who doesn't care to use it or need it. So insurance companies do have certain advantages versus individual investors trying to provide income through bond ladders and investment distributions. Since carriers have scale, they can aggregate the cash flow for the group. This allows them to better match their assets and liabilities over time. They can buy longer duration bonds and get better rates. They can add higher risk bonds for better returns. And they often hold the bonds until maturity, minimizing the interest rate risk of redeeming at the wrong time. They can also take advantage of institutional pricing and diversify across the markets. And so they have expenses, and some of the better run carriers can keep these low, providing a better bottom line. So I mentioned this study a couple of seconds ago. This study came out in 2007, and as you know, the market took a really deep dive in 2008. And it's one of the things to worry about, that sequence of return risk that we can only minimize but not eliminate. And the theory here is simple, that you take a lump sum of money early into retirement to provide income. And you want enough to have your living expenses covered. So somebody needing 80,000 a year for their basic living, a little bit of fun perhaps. If they have 50,000 from their Social Security and any pensions, then take a chunk to annuitize the other 30,000. And that allows you to invest the rest of your portfolio in a more aggressive manner. There's certainly a different portfolio makeup if you're deriving income versus growth. And what they found in this historical study is that an annuity can provide a substantial savings over stock, bonds, and cash mixes. They know, and we all recognize that retirement income planning breaks down when people live past life expectancy, and we're all living longer than we might be thinking. Income annuities most effectively address the risk of outliving your nest egg. And again, they recognize that insurers have added more consumer-friendly innovations, like a period certain, if you will, that eliminate the traditional reason of thinking I won't use an annuity because I don't want to lose the bet. We know that defined benefit programs and are fewer and farther between these days. A lot of people have 401ks, and everybody is focused on the growth of the pile. But accumulation planning and decumulation planning are two different things. And so the ROI that many retirees are focused on is reliability of income, not return on investments. And as people are focused how big the pile is, what matters most is what it pays. So here's a risk reward continuum. We're going to look at, it shows you where annuities fall on the spectrum. And we're going to take a look today at immediate annuities or SPIAs and deferred annuities, which a unique one is a QLAC, qualified longevity annuity contract. We'll look at deferred annuities with income riders, MYGAs or multi-year guaranteed annuities, and index deferred annuities. So we're going to start our case studies with income now situations. So I want to emphasize that an annuity, again, is just a protection tool. People buy a tool to accomplish something. So one example would be a drill. You don't buy a drill because you want the drill. You buy the drill because you want the hole. And so it is with annuities. Love or hate the word or the product, they do, and one of the few ways to guarantee lifetime income. They provide guarantees where you can only project with investing and yielding from investments. And so they can increase the percentage of a positive outcome and add peace of mind to a client's situation. And they can protect the rest of your assets from having to be liquidated at the wrong time. And they remove the sequence of return risk when structured in certain ways. So we're going to start our case studies. And note that when you deliver lifetime income, every check has some principal, interest, and mortality credits in it. All lifetime income annuities pay mortality credits, and those that live the longest get the most mortality credits, and ultimately the best return. And there have been some recent studies showing that people who have annuities are actually living longer than those that don't. Maybe they're adjusting their lifestyle to live longer, but perhaps some of it is they have less stress along the way. So our first numbers example here is examining income maximization situation for Rebecca. She doesn't have a pension. She has 1,200 in Social Security that she turned on at age 65. And she has the 500,000 in IRA assets that she's looking to invest and yield income so she can live. She's a conservative investor and she needs to maximize her income because she doesn't have a lot of assets beyond that. And we all know the 4% rule, and we have that in here. If she were yielding 4%, it'd be 20 grand. Now, Bill Bengen recently rewrote his article and he said that the 4% is probably more like 4.7% these days. And I recognize that the true 4% rule, the 20,000, is going to grow over time with inflation adjusting. But how long is 20,000 going to take to grow to be worth what the annuities can pay right now in the 36,000 plus ranges? So later we'll look at split annuities, which is another way to do things here. But let's look a couple of questions here. This is qualified money, and what we'd want to know is what happens if her portfolio doesn't yield the 4%. If we have an unfavorable sequence of returns, how will the long-term viability of the portfolio be invested? Which option should she choose? And would the answer be the same for non-qualified money? So if she takes a guaranteed income rider annuity, we can pay out 38,000 versus the 20 today. The SPIA would give a little bit less, and the SPIA with a cash refund even a little bit less. But when we look at these numbers for non-qualified assets, we get that exclusion ratio to the right. And simply what that means is with the straight life annuity, 66% of that 37,000 wouldn't be taxable for quite a while. Now, ultimately, when you have a lifetime income annuity and they've paid all of your principal back, so once she's received a total of 500,000 in income back, then the full amount of the 37,000 would become income taxable, just to be clear. And so the company gets paid for taking the risk and delivering the guarantees versus delivering the guarantees along the way. And these are guarantees versus projections. Now, today, there's a pricing anomaly going on with annuities. When I look at this 60-year-old couple making a $300,000 deposit, they're looking to get income in 10 years, right? They're in a home stretch of retirement. And we see a lot of people work until 70 these days versus 65 before because they are deferring their Social Security, want to max that out and need to save more. But a deferred income annuity in 2024, when we first made this presentation, the yield at that time for the 300,000 would have started to provide a $30,000 income in 10 years. Today, that income is up to $37,000. In other words, if I take her 300 today, I can guarantee 10 years from now, 37 instead of the older rate. And what we're seeing with these fixed indexed annuities with income riders is they're actually paying more than a SPIA. Back in 24, it was a more significant difference, although the difference has narrowed. An income rider product delivers a higher income for them. Now, there's some other details to understand there, but it simply means that we need to look at all the income options when we're devising lifetime income now or later. So this, when you see orange in Client Chronicles, these are real life stories that I've been directly involved and engaged not only with the advisor, but directly with the clients. And so Mick and Molly's story simply was they were retiring and their advisor was looking for how they were going to derive some more steady income for them. And they identified a couple of things. They identified 3 whole life policies and 1 variable annuity that they wanted to turn into income. And note that these policies, these whole life policies, were perfectly fine policies, well funded with a very quality company, and their variable annuity had done well as their variable annuity had done well along the way as well. So in this situation, we simply took the 3 whole life policies and put them in a single premium immediate annuity. And we did a similar thing for the variable annuity, except for the 409,000 cash value was joint lifetime income. We were able to give $2,400 a month for their lifetime with a 10-year period certain. If you're not familiar, that simply means that if the clients both died 5 years into the annuitization period, the insurance company would continue to pay the 5 additional years to their family. And want to recognize that although they had an annuitization option on their existing excuse me, I'm a page off here. Let me pay attention to this page, sorry. I don't like to read my notes, but they're there for me. So In the case of the joint lifetime income from the whole life policies, we want to take a look at what kind of a deal or what's going to be the yield because we don't know how long they're going to live. And again, those that live longer will get the better return is the way that annuities work. And so when we look at the IRS life expectancy here, it shows 21 years. And what we know in the industry is those life expectancy tables generally include the overall population. And what we know about higher net worth clients is they do better and they live longer, if you will. They have more money to see their doctors. They're not wearing out their bodies like a blue collar worker might do. And so their joint life expectancy from an insurance industry here is 27 years. And you can see that if they were to live 27 years, then they're going to be somewhere around a 5% return. The general consensus is they have a 44% chance of one of them being alive at age 90 and 18% chance of one of them being alive at age 95. So again, those that live longer are going to get more return out of the annuities and certainly a smoother ride along the way. And what I was about to say a few minutes ago was their annuity, when we looked at that, we did a 1035 exchange into an immediate annuity, but this one was just on mixed life, not on a joint life. That's the way they wanted to do it. So their annuity options were $1,000 a month in the existing annuity, and we were able to shop the market and make that 1240 for him. So he's getting about 15% more than he would have if he annuitized what he had. And these people live in a state with an estate tax, with a state estate tax. And so the idea of minimizing bad assets to die with comes to mind here. And that is, we got rid of the second worst asset to die with, and that's non-qualified annuities because they pay tax when you die. The worst asset to die with is qualified money, of course. And with that, we could have looked for other assets to draw income from. That would have preserved the life insurance, and that might have been put in an ILET in some estate planning scenarios, but they weren't doing estate planning, they were doing income planning here. And the advantage of annuitizing the life insurance plans was that it had a good basis so that some of that income was not taxable along the way. So that's the story there. Switching plans, doing pension planning. This is another client chronicle. Jake and Jane came to me by their fee-only advisor. He was consulting with them because Jake had a pension at his business, but he also had a lump sum option at his business. And the lump sum was $944,000. The joint life option they were offering at his employer was $3,300 a month, and we were able to shop for $4,800 a month income. So substantial increase over annuitizing in the general marketplace versus accepting theirs. And again, Jake was a very conservative, very analytical client, I might add too. He was very specific along the way, and we had to help him dot the I's and cross the T's, and we did. And to the point where he didn't even want to put all of the 944 in one annuity, we ended up diversifying against three very high quality carriers. So he has the peace of mind that he wants. They're getting $4,800 a month for the rest of their life. This was allowing him to defer his Social Security until age 70, so he'll have even a bigger bump in it. And I should add that his wife was significantly younger here. She was 9 years younger, so that's why we wanted to do joint income, excuse me. That's why we wanted to do joint income in order to make sure she was okay as well. So this delivered the peace of mind that Jake was looking for. And again, the moral here, if somebody has pension options and they prefer that option, you might not just annuitize at work, you might want to shop assuming they allow the lump sum option here. So improve this in many ways, and he had an equivalent yield, not a direct yield, but an equivalent yield of 6.1% off the asset total. Moving to some other annuity strategies, we'll look at annuity arbitrage and split annuities. In this case, Ingrid was retiring. She had 1.5 million net worth. She wanted to increase some of her income. And in our first example, we're showing that we showed some options that could replenish the money she annuitized because she had some legacy returns. And we ended up adding or showing a chronic care rider on the life insurance policy that you'll see in a minute. So we were taking a $200,000 amount of non-qualified premium from her. And we devised this plan as option one. We showed $124,000 going into an immediate annuity. That was going to give her $700 more per month. And we took the other 76 and bought a paid up $200,000 life insurance policy. So that replaces the asset to her heirs. Doesn't necessitate us having any contingencies on the lifetime income in this case. And we did add the 8,000, we added a chronic care rider, which gives her $8,000 a month. And so the thought was simply that she has more income. A substantial amount of that income, 67%, wasn't going to be taxable for quite a while. If she dies, the heirs get the 200,000, or if she decided to leave some assets to charity, she could do that, and the life insurance would replace that. Now, certainly, if she did have a chronic care event and started drawing that $8,000, then she wasn't going to leave as much money to the kids, but the priority was still working with her. So, had she not had the desire to leave some money behind, we could have designed a split annuity approach. And in this case, we'd take 140,000 for a 14-year only annuity. That would have given her $1,100 a month instead of the 776 that we just looked at. But that ends in 14 years, and so we took the other 60,000 in this design to buy a deferred income annuity. And in the 15th year, since the 1100 ends and this starts, she'd start getting 1480 a month for the rest of her life on this one. And so we gave her a bump up inflation offset, if you will, by designing the annuities this way. Again, for a long time when interest rates were pretty low, these strategies weren't working as well as what they can do now. And so in her case, she had a bump in income in the 15th year by designing it this way if she didn't care about the legacy factor. Now, annuity arbitrage is not a new concept. It's been around a long time, and we generally use it more in an estate tax planning situation. So we look at Ruth here, a high net worth individual. She wanted more income than what she's deriving right now. And she did want to maximize her assets for her heirs, but she didn't want to pay an estate tax. And unfortunately, she lives in Illinois. And she had significant non-qualified assets available. And so what we were able to do for her on the left-hand side is where she was. And in Illinois, unfortunately, if you're a dollar over 4 million when you die, you're going to pay tax from $1, not just on the dollar that's over the 4 million exemption mark. So if she died with a $4.5 million estate, over 140,000 would be paid to Illinois taxes. And what we did was we took 1 million of non-qualified, bought a SPIA providing 72,000 gross. She'll net 66,000 out of that until later in life when all of that becomes taxable. She's going to take 23,000 a year to make gifts to an islet that will own $1 million of guaranteed life insurance. So she replaced the asset for her heirs that she was annuitizing, got that out of her estate, and has 43,000 of net spendable income. And I want to emphasize we did a life only on the annuity here because we don't want any residual benefit coming back to push her over that 4 million mark. And so the day after this was all put in place, if she dies, now she's on the right-hand side. She'd have, for estate tax purposes, an estate of $3.5 million, and therefore no state of Illinois estate tax, and she was below the federal. We didn't have to worry about that one. So this improved the situation for her. We eliminated her state estate tax exposure. We replaced that asset, so the heirs will get the full 4.5 million. And she has more money to enjoy. And we educated her about making lifetime gifts. Hey, we don't want you to grow to be past the $4 million now, and have to consider this thing when you're older and perhaps less healthy. So we want you to be making some gifts and kind of monitor that you stay under that 4 million, and we'll avoid all estate tax when you die. So I want to just take a pause. If you came in late, we need you to log 50 minutes today, so stay through some of the Q&A. We might run a little bit past the 50 minutes for the presentation with all the material here. I also want to emphasize, please fill in when you close out. You'll see a survey in your browser. We appreciate you filling in the full survey, but at least let us know your CFP code, please. And if you have to run immediately after the presentation, 24 hours from now, they will email you another survey. So fill that one in if you didn't do today. And again, we appreciate all your feedback in the survey. I also want to reference that on 4/15 is our next CFPCE presentation, Term Details Matter. And on 5/13, What Advisors Need to Know About LTC. We'll be sending this to you when we send the kit and the replay and such. And if you'd like us to speak at your organization or study group, please reach out. We'd be happy to do that. So onwards with our case studies of 3 ways to design income later. Um, we can use a deferred income annuity or a QLAC. We can use an income rider product on a deferred annuity, or we can do a two-stage approach. We can put some money in a deferred annuity and then later shop for immediate annuities. And so we have a perfect case study here that we did. Now, this just turned into orange because when we designed this last year, the client did go ahead with the blessing of his fee-only advisor to move forward with one of these options, which we'll show you. So Jack and Jill wanted to set some money aside of their non-qualified assets that they would be able to provide a guaranteed lifetime income 10 years from now when Jack was expected to retire. And so the first thing we looked at was we put the money into a DIA. We triggered it to have income in 10 years, and it would provide a $4,900 joint lifetime income for them. Now, ROP means return of premium. We did have this on the example. It wasn't a large cost because they were fully both expected to live beyond 10 years. But if both of them suddenly died coming home from date night one night, the ROP rider would have returned the premium to their heirs. Now, understand the ROP is there just for the first 10 years, and we didn't have a contingency on the lifetime income from there. So the other option that we looked at was we looked at some index deferred annuities with an income rider. And this one provided a lot more income in 10 years, 5,900. And if they both died along the way during the 10 years, whatever the balance was in the account, they would leave to their heirs. And the third option, which is the one that's not fully guaranteed because I'm using today numbers to project tomorrow, but we could lock up the money in a 10-year multi-year guaranteed annuity at a 5% return when we designed this early last year. And in 10 years, the SPIA was expected to generate $4,931. Now understand, I'm using tomorrow's ages. So we figure out what the 10-year MYGA is going to grow to. That's guaranteed. And then we are using today's SPIA rates. We design it where they're 10 years older and what could I go out and buy. So if interest rates go up if mortality rates go down, then we'd have more income in 10 years. But this is a two-stage approach. I can't guarantee that this is going to deliver that 4,900 in 10 years is the point. But when we look at these side by side, note that the two-stage approach was pretty close to the DIA amount, and the index rider stood out. And not only did it stand out, it offered the most flexibility because there are pros and cons of each strategy. And in the case of the DIA, there's no flexibility. If he retires earlier than 10 years, he's got to wait for that income to start. It's a set it and forget it kind of a situation. He certainly had flexibility in the two-stage approach, but he also has flexibility in the income rider. If he retires early, he turns it on, it'll be less income than what we showed. If he decides to work longer and defer it, then the income guarantee will grow in that product as well. And so pricing and product changes happen all the time in my world. And again, this pricing anomaly hasn't been around forever, and it might not be around tomorrow. But today it just tells us again, we have to compare all these options to know what's best to do. Another client chronicle. This is the Nervous Nelly story that I mentioned. When I met Nervous Nelly, she was a longtime client of a longtime advisor that I've worked with. And in 2013, her ex-husband died and left her 400 grand. How nice of an ex-husband, huh? But she was still seething a little bit because she had $1 million in the market in 2008, and it wasn't that far before, and she still remembered it. And she absolutely wasn't going to take any risk with this. So again, back in 2013, we have to look at the environment we were in and what could we have put her in and so forth. We ended up taking her $400,000 and putting it into a indexed single premium deferred annuity. It had a 5-year surrender charge on it. She was not sure when she was going to retire. She might work part-time and need some income and so forth. So this was the strategy that gave us full ability to shift on the fly. And so just to know that she ended up retiring fully in 2018, so just 5 years later, right on time. And at that time, the indexed annuity over those 5 years grew from 400 to 460. So for those who are negative about indexed annuities, in this case, that was a 3.1% IRR. And we'll look at the history and compare that because we have to go back and see, we know that you can do better than 3.1% today. And in fact, more people today in this situation are using the pure deferred annuity with a fixed rate because that rate's significantly higher than what it was in 2013. And so she decided to purchase an immediate annuity with no contingencies because she had no kids. She was only worried about her, and she was getting 2,581 a month since 2018. And the end of this story is yet to know. The longer she lives, the better that deal would be for her. And if she dies early, maybe she could have done something different with hindsight. But in her case, the peace of mind and the guarantee was prominent with her. And this 2,500 was equivalent to a 6.7% drawdown rate. Again, not a pure yield, as you know. But when we look with hindsight as where things were in 2013, we were dealing with a 5-year CD that was yielding less than 1%. We were dealing with a 10-year treasury that was dealing less than 2%. And again, over the 5 years, she yielded 3.1. So that was a win. And if she lives a long life, so will the SPIA be a win for her. So let's look at QLACs. This is a special carve out that the government made for us that we can take up to $200,000 out of our IRA and defer that till later in life. The longest you can defer is age 85. And I've had a few successes with these products for people because they want to have some safety net under them, knowing that if things don't go right, if the portfolio doesn't grow the way they thought, they aren't going to run out of money later. So when you think about what you deliver when you project retirement income for people and you show them that they have an 85% chance that their money's going to last till age 95, I assure you some people are wondering, well, what if I'm in that 15% quartile, or what if I live past age 95? What will I do? And that's where some QLACs come into play. And so comparing, if we took for a 65-year-old female, if we took $200,000 and set it aside and start a lifetime income at age 95, she's guaranteed to get 9,300 a month for the rest of her life. Now, if she wanted to insure her $200,000, then we'd put an ROP premium on it, and that would lower the income to 7,800 at age 85 instead of there. So you're insuring your principal by adding the ROP. Some people are going to want to do that. Others understand they'd rather have the bigger income and know that they could lose if they die early. But what I want you to compare is, if she didn't do this, what would she need to allocate in order to derive the same incomes at age 85? So at age 85, in order to provide a 9,300 a month guaranteed lifetime income, she'd need 760,000 of her assets. So in essence, the 200 grew to be the equivalent of 763 over those 20 years. And if she wanted to have the ROP, she'd need 841 instead of the 763 at age 65, or excuse me, at age 85. So it shows that. And the other side to this, believe it or not, is the value that the QLAC gives to the RMD trajectory. And I've had a few advisors and high net worth clients buy QLACs not because they were worried about running out of money. They wanted to have that lower RMD trajectory. So this chart gets a little bit busy, but if you look, we're really comparing the 1 million balance in her IRA versus moving 200,000 out via a QLAC, because now your RMDs are only focused on the 800,000 balance. And note that in at age 73, the RMD is 48,000 instead of 60. And further down the road at age 85, the RMD is 89,000 versus the 112 it would have been if we didn't use the QLAC and make that 200,000 disappear. So at age 85, she not only gets the income from the QLAC, but if she's taken her RMD, that puts her at a total of over 200,000 in income along the way. So this is a double value, if you will, of working with QLACs inside IRAs. And again, people are buying them for the RMD side, sometimes more so than even the guaranteed safety net of income. So an interesting point. So now let's look at protecting the principal. This is your MYGAs, or index deferred annuities, that guarantee the principal. And some of the reasons people are using them, and this was something going back to the Jack and Jill Hill story. They were worried about a bad sequence of returns happening before their 10th year retirement trajectory. And you've seen these things before. What we're doing in here is we just transpose the story for Jim and Mary versus Bob and Jane. They're taking $25,000 a year out of the portfolio. And Jim and Mary have a bad first year, a bad sequence of returns. Note that the average return along the way on both sides is still the 6.7. We just inverted the return years over the next 30 years. And Bob and Jane had a smooth situation. Not only did they have their income along the way, but they had a balance still around $1 million. That's a successful situation. And Jim and Mary just didn't fare as well because they had an early loss. So people are concerned about a big market drop right before they're going to retire or right after they're going to retire. And this is something that annuities can help with. So, um, I should elaborate on that, excuse me, back to that story here. So um, in the case of running out of money for Jim and Mary, they would run out of money in the 13th year is what the scenario would be. And had they bought a joint SPIA for their $500,000, they could have had a $33,000 joint lifetime income for it. So again, showing the value of annuities to help eliminate the sequence of return risk. And that's what was attractive for Jack and Jill was they knew that that 500,000 wasn't going to be anything. Now they had significant other assets as well, but they put it in there for the reason of avoiding a bad sequence and having some reliable income and allowing them to invest the rest of their money without as much concern. Now, in the last couple of years, we've done some in-service distributions for people. I'll add that I even did one for myself. So we were introduced to this client by their advisor, and they were in TIAA-CREF annuity, and they had a significant amount of money in there, and the yield was falling at the time. So she was earning 4%, and she saw that those rates were falling there. But it did have a 3% lifetime minimum return on it. So we were looking for outside annuities that could give her a better return than the 4% and maintain that over the next 5 years, and that had a same 3% minimum floor. So we only improved the situation. So in June of 24, we moved $500,000 and she locked that up for 545. And in May of 25, she came back and did some more. And in fact, her husband did some as well. So we moved about $1.5 million out of their annuity at TIAA-CREF and locked in the rates for the next 5 years. Therefore, they won't fall. And the guaranteed lifetime minimum was equal to what she had there. So improved the situation. And we use quality rated carriers and walk away products. So after 5 years, the money is fully accessible. If they don't treat her right, she can move it. And if she can't do any worse than 3% over the life of the annuity. So this was a unique scenario and usage of it. So we often use for your clients, again, this is something regarding sequence of returns, right? In order to avoid them, you protect the principal. And today, right now, 5 year rates for a CD, the best I see out there on the web is around 3.9, and we still have quality carriers yielding 5%. And for those in the home stretch of retirement, maybe this is all they want to do. Get a little bit better return, protect the principal on some of their money, and decide later whether they're cashing out of this or annuitizing or whatever they care to do. Moving onwards, I want to share some unique uses of annuities. While I pause for a second and take a quick drink, I want to emphasize you can add some questions in the Q&A. We'll get to them shortly. And for those who came in late, please stay on and make sure you log 50 minutes. So stay through the Q&A so we can give you your hour credit. Our first unique case is leverage for care. Cindy was brought to me by an advisor, and she was looking for long-term care. Now, we know that there's life-based hybrids out in the marketplace, traditional and such. She wanted a hybrid, but the money that she allocated to use was from an annuity that had a significant gain. It actually had doubled through the years. She didn't intend to use that for income, but that was the bucket that she identified to utilize. And what we were able to do then, because you can't 1035 exchange from an annuity to life. You can go life to annuity, but in her case, we had to seek out an annuity hybrid long-term care product, and that's what we ended up doing. We took her 100 and immediately made it worth 250,000. And understand the other advantage here is if she uses this money now for care later, it's income tax free because it's an officially registered long-term care annuity product. And so it isn't just the leverage, but the tax leverage that's in there, because if she would have needed care and didn't have this product and pulled it out of the annuity, she'd pay tax on the first, you pull your gains first out of an annuity. So this was one unique thing, and making you aware that there are annuity hybrids in the marketplace that for less healthy people, we use them too. This Papa Bill is my grandfather. And after Graham died at age 70, we wanted to get him some long-term care. He was declined on a life-based long-term care. So what we ended up doing was we ended up making a pseudo substitute for him. We put some money into a deferred indexed annuity with an income rider. And the thought was simple, that if he needs care someday, we're going to turn the rider income on. He had a good pension and some in his case, and some other assets. And so we simply were making a substitute for something that would help with care. Well, unfortunately, we never got there, or fortunately, he never needed care. He died suddenly 10 years later without the need. And so the balance from 2008 on the $75,000 deposit, premium deposit, the balance grew from the 75 to 116. Again, with hindsight, that was a 4.4% internal rate of return on the money. Again, showing that there can be value from these indexed annuities. Now, Al came to me from a fee-only advisor as a life insurance review. And Al had some good policies and some not so good policies. He didn't want to keep all the coverage, so we obviously kept the good policies. And we had to do something with the policies that weren't so good. One of the big problems was one of the policies he had was with a company that was kind of in financial trouble. And with hindsight, that company actually did default. So it was a good thing now with hindsight. But at the time, we didn't want to surrender that policy because it still had a considerable gain in it. And so I recommended, hey, why don't we put this in a deferred annuity? And again, back in 2018, fixed rates were pretty low still. So we decided to buy an index deferred annuity. And as of last year's anniversary, the balance had grown from 282 to 384. And I just highlight here where things were in 2018. We only had a 1.71 rate on a 12-month CD, and 5-year CD was only 2.3, and treasuries were only 2.4. And so moving up to last year's anniversary, he so far has averaged a 4.53 internal rate of return over 7 years. This is the math. This is actual returns of what he experienced. His first year was 3.9 and then as low as 1.4. With a really good year, 3 years in, he made over 13%. He had 1 year where it was a bad market. He made nothing. And, I don't know where he's going to turn out, but I'll be adding year 8 on this after April when his year rolls by, and we'll adjust accordingly. This is one that I'm keeping tabs on just to show how these products work over a longer period of time and that you can have some confidence in them. And to the point, Roger Ibbotson, we all know, he's been professing since 2018 that, hey, these fixed indexed annuities might be better than holding bonds in people's portfolios. He's not telling you to go overboard with it, but It's somebody in the investment business telling you an annuity can work well. And I just showed you an example with Al's story that is a good case in point. So, thank you for taking time to learn with us today. I'm going to get to your questions in a minute, so still add them. Please do complete your survey or at least give us your CFP code, but a few other items here. So we can help you review an existing or proposed annuity for your clients. We can certainly help you instantly make your clients an expert shopper by working with annuity searches for whatever the goals are. We're going to share some tools and insights with you in the kit, and I'll show you what those are in a minute. And we're all about getting the right fit solution for your clients. We have a wide access to carriers and industry support. We are here to help you identify, analyze, prepare, and present annuity solutions or life insurance or long-term care or disability. Those are the four areas that we work in. And our annuity resource kit is going to include a page about a page on annuity arbitrage, that example I gave. We have a QLAC example to go through for you. So you can read these later or rewatch the presentation as you like. And then we have a designing lifetime income piece that goes through those three flavors of projecting. Couple other resources. Our annuity selection roadmap just gives you a diagram of thinking on annuities, of whether or not a client should consider one and so forth. We offer key questions so you can ask the right things to test to see which client might get value out of an annuity. And if you need quotes, we have our annuity income design questionnaire. So we can either talk or you can fill that in of what you're looking to do, and we can get to work shopping stuff for you. So this is a picture of my mug for you while I go through the Q&A. So again, highlight that on 415, we're doing our term details matter presentation. There's a lot more to term than just price, and we'll be bringing that out. And on 513, we'll be doing our what advisors need to know about long-term care. So with that, I am going to thank you again for attending, and let me look at any questions we might have in our chat box. I show no questions in queue. So if you do have questions, I'm going to hang on, because if you came in late, I'm going to wait till the end of the hour for you, but I'm going to turn off our recording now.